Gary Vee put out some really great content. Now I want him and us and all of us to go to the next level with it, just to think a little bit bigger about it. Gary Vee posted a video with him and Cato on the track, and Cato asked a question about success and about how to really handle doubling down, making the most out of opportunity without drowning in it. And Gary gave this awesome sage advice about how you should feed others rather than try to take and try to just get everything that you can out of the moment. That's when you stay humble, he says. And I love this. This is such genius advice. I mean, if we all were humble in the midst of success, the world would be a better place. The issue I have is, and it's not even an issue, right? This is not a debate. This is just a thought. It provoked me to think about how we can really capitalize on humility. Now, some people are grateful and they're humble because they started from humble beginnings. You're thinking about, the fact that you're not going to sleep until you achieve this goal. You're not going to eat until you achieve this goal. A lot of people's dreams, especially entrepreneurs, especially those who are supercharged for success by nothing but adrenaline, they're doing whatever they can. They're in survival mode until they get to that mile high moment. And then once you're there, you haven't been using humility or generosity to fuel your achievement. You've been supercharged by a do or die moment. That survival of the fittest mentality, it can sometimes lead to someone who is centered on, I got to do this for me. And I mean, the most successful people I know are generous when they were scrapping. They were generous when they were starving. They were giving and they were sharing with people when they had nothing. And they just amplify that when they have success. But if you were just trying to stay alive and you were hustling, but you were just not trained in that muscle of giving, then you're not all of a sudden going to know how to look out for other people when you're having that mile high moment. You think you might. You think you're going to be more of a giver once you have more to give, right? Once you have more money. But if you don't start with giving when you don't have a lot, when you have $1 versus $1 million or 5 million, you're not going to be as generous as you think because you're so used to holding on to something. You're so used to keeping it close to the vest. You're so used to looking out for you because maybe people did fail you. Maybe you had family that didn't understand your grind. Maybe you had people steal from you, take your ideas, take the credit for something that you did. You're going to have those same kinds of worldviews. Some might call it baggage, but we all have our stuff, and you're going to carry that into your moment. And so it's imperative that we learn how to be generous when we are in the struggle, when we're in the hustle, so that when we get to the top, we don't take that poverty, lack, not enough, scarcity mindset with us. But even the most generous among us, even those who have been practiced in giving, still have to deal with getting rid of that scarcity mindset. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not above that. I've definitely seen in my life where, it's really about this test that we have with ourselves to be the best. And I've had to be trained up in generosity. I've had to be trained up in staying humble. I've had to be trained up because it's really recognizing that other people are part of your success story in a much bigger way than your giftings and talents are. I mean, you can think you are the best, but it's somebody else opening that door. It's somebody else giving you a shot. We can tell people once they get to that mile high moment to be humble and to give back, but we really should be fostering this trait, this quality in young entrepreneurs, in students early. Like, we really need to be thinking about stay humble when people are 8 years old and 10 years old and 12 years old, and they're working at the lemonade stand and they're working in coding as teenagers and, earning the first 2 years of their college education while they're in high school taking AP classes. I mean, we have the smartest kids. We have kids that have more access to knowledge than ever before, but are we really training them in the emotional skills that they need to foster the right relationships, to be generous when they are being given such abundance and when they're winning and when they are, their name is known all over the world? Are we fostering that young enough in our junior executives? Are we fostering that for those who we are training to be the next business owners, CEOs, and presidents of corporations? I would say that we could work towards more of that in our culture. And to do that, we have to be really intentional. So I say thank you to Gary for even mentioning humility. Thank you so much for even putting it out there. You mentioned karma. You get back what you give. I know that kindness is a big thing for Gary. I'm thinking about how we can tell people earlier on in their journey to be humble, to give when it looks like they should be taking. Because what I heard described is not just something that happens when you're at that mile high moment. This is something that happens all along the way. You're tested, you're tempted, you want to gimme when you should be giving. And if that's not in your nature, if you weren't raised with that as a child, you aren't even aware that it's an option. You could start networking and start schmoozing and start reaching out to people and having that boldness to connect. And that's real cool. But to nurture those relationships takes a lot more than swag. To nurture those relationships takes time, it takes attention, it takes situational awareness. It takes a knowing that you're going to be okay, that you're going to be taken care of, even when it looks like you're taking care of everybody else. And yet a balance, because if you're taking care of everybody else, but you're not taking care of home, if you're not making sure that you do invest in you, if you're not doing the inner work so that you don't go crazy on the journey, then you aren't going to make it. You might have that mile high moment, but you might have a meltdown. So it gave me another chance to reflect on the journey I've had and the journey I've had with other people, and in mentoring them and in helping develop them, but also in wanting to be better myself. And I've thought, what if no one had ever taught me how to give? What if no one had taught me how to be philanthropic? It's not automatic for most people. You should check out Gary Vee's video. It's in his Instagram feed, probably on YouTube as well, with Cato. And it's a great piece of advice. But I'm just saying, maybe we can all be thinking a little bit more about what we need to do to foster humility and generosity in this generation and the generation that will come up again after us. What can we do to start teaching our children about giving to other people? It starts at home, but if it's not happening at home, it can happen at school. What are we doing to foster generosity in school children? What is public education doing to show the impact, not just of a global footprint in terms of climate and environmentalism, but how are we telling our children that they make an impact on the very atmospheres of the rooms that they enter into, whether it's a classroom or a boardroom, whether it's a Zoom call, or it's how you interact with people on the street? What are we doing to reinforce to the youngest members of our teams at work, our colleagues, rather than say to them, oh, these are the stats for Gen Z? What are we doing as the big brothers and sisters in the workforce to actually instill that what you give, you do get back, you do receive, there is reciprocity, and that in that kindness, in that thinking of others, in that being humble, in that asking people, what can I do for you? How can I help you? That we are actually giving them the building blocks of a legacy, of a lasting impression, not just of building a reputation, but a reverberation that will impact the people around them, the people they serve, all of their customers, and then the next generation of employees to come. It's possible for anybody to learn how to be generous. It's just a lot easier to teach someone how to be generous and humble before their moment. If you are in your moment now, the key to this advice that Gary Vee gave is to be teachable, right? If you can be coachable and teachable, you'll be able to be open to somebody telling you to give back, telling you to look out for people around you, telling you to be the solution instead of demanding or asking for something. That's your sweet spot. So I would say, to add to what Gary said that was so wise, to remain humble is to remain coachable and teachable. To know that even though you've made it, and even though you've had all this success in the moment, there's still more for you to learn. Does that make sense? Thank you, Gary Vee, for promoting humility and goodwill in the workplace and all around the world. So check it out. Check the video out. I'll talk to you later.